Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another virtual meetup. We're so excited to have you. We have a special guest today, Enrique from.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another virtual meetup. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, it's just in the background. We're good. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll get started again. Yeah, we're so excited to have you. We have a very special guest, Enrique Whitright from the consulting team is here with us. He's presented in the past, and we're excited to have him back. Real quick, we'll go through some housekeeping, do some agendas on the Elastic side, go through a few action items, and then I'll turn it over to Enrique. So my name is Olivia Petrie. I am a DevRel program manager. I'm also joined by Justin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Justin. I'm a senior developer advocate at Elastic, and I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. So I'll review our upcoming events, a few things like our meetup raffle, resources, how to get involved, and then we'll turn it over to Enrique. At the end, we'll have time for Q&A. So post any of your questions in the chat. Enrique and Justin will walk through Q&A at the end of the presentation. So upcoming events, this just shows our US, LATAM, and Canada events. We have quite a bit more in EMEA and APJ. I'll post links to our Meetup Pro page where you can see all upcoming events and check out what's going on in your neighborhood. But here's just what we have through August as of now that is currently scheduled. Meetup raffle, as usual, we have a meetup raffle to win some Elastic swag. So I'll post this URL in the chat as well, but be sure to enter it if you are interested in winning some swag. And then resources. So we have a ton of resources from our DevRel team through Elastic resources as well, but I wanted to highlight a few community specific resources we have. So we have our YouTube channel. That's where we are right now. Discuss.elastic.co. This is a forum where you can get your questions answered. You can also go in there and answer questions from the community as well. And then our community Slack workspace. So if you aren't a part of either of these platforms already, definitely take some time and sign up. Again, I will post all the links in the chat. What now? So if you are interested in presenting, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your Elastic use case, whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced. We welcome all levels, wherever you are in your Elastic journey. So definitely reach out to meetups@elastic.co. We'll do a virtual meetup. We'll do an in-person meetup if there's a user group close by to you. And then again, find the nearest user group chapter and subscribe to stay up to date. So again, I will post this link, but definitely take a look and see if we have a chapter in your area. And that way you can be notified of upcoming events. With that, I will turn it over to Enrique. Again, if you have questions throughout his presentation, be sure to post those in chat and we will get those answered at the end. So I will add in Enrique.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody can hear me with the right microphone. I'm very excited to be back. This is a great place for me to meet with people without the pressures of teaching a class or consulting. This is just a friendly place where we can just present some ideas and in an informal way, even though there's a bunch of slides. Well, but not that many slides this time, but there are slides and there are demos, but and it's not it's not a perfect setting, so this is really exciting, and this is actually a continuation of a meetup. I think it's the last one I did on GenAI with Elasticsearch, and I presented a search application built on top of Elasticsearch, augmented with ChatGPT, and something I call the blog advisor, because we used blogs to provide context to the GenAI so that the GenAI would be less prone to hallucinate and make up answers that are not real. So that one was a lot of fun. This one is a continuation, like I said. We're not going in a different direction. We're just going to point out a few things about GenAI and augmentation that may not seem obvious at first. especially, if you're thinking that everything is, you just search for text and get answers based on text. But in the middle, or actually in the back end, is Elasticsearch. So what about Elasticsearch? Well, okay. Well, first of all, let me just plug in a few things. Make sure you join the user group, that you have user groups local to you, or virtual user groups. And then thanks for being here. Make sure that if you have something to say, you come here and present. We love hearing from our friends and customers. And as Olivia said, we have tons of ways of acknowledging your contribution. So don't, I think the dates at the bottom are totally wrong, but we'll fix that when we distribute the slides. Anyway, just participate. This is a community. That's what it's all about. And I am part of the training team, part of consulting and the training team. So look into our courses. We have subscriptions where you can get everything we have on demand. And one of my favorite roles is to develop that content. And in fact, today's meetup is a lesson that I took out of a new class, and I saved it just for this meetup. Okay, so let's see how that goes. So that I would give you a preview of the full-blown class and also something to just take back with you. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about today. So Elasticsearch is not just a pretty search engine. It's not just a pretty face. It contains a lot of functionality for data processing, and it's large. It's big data processing. It's not just a little bit of functionality. We process massive amounts of data and do something with it so that you can take the results of that processing and then use that to augment things that the GenAI would never be able to do for you, simply because you would never be able to ship large volumes of data to the GenAI. So if you want some intelligence before you hit the other intelligence, you can actually process data in Elasticsearch. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to process data with Elasticsearch, turn that into actionable insights with GenAI. And then we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is, so what do I do with it? Well, let's build an app. Okay. I'm a fanboy of Elasticsearch from the days when it was everybody's favorite backend for building apps. So I've never given up on that. And now with the idea of retrieval-augmented applications, retrieval-augmented generation applications, we are the R in RAG. We're the retrieval, but we're more than that. We also do a lot of processing. And then I want to showcase an aggregation that is brand new. It's still in technical preview, so it might not survive, or it might not survive in the same way. Typically they do, but while it's still out there and available, I want to use it to demonstrate this idea of processing a whole bunch of data in Elasticsearch and then using GenAI to turn that into intelligence and actionable advice. And then we'll do a round of Q&A. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. Justin and Olivia will be looking at them, and in many cases, they will have an answer before I even look at the question. So, all right, so let's look at some of the data processing with Elasticsearch. So, like I said, Elasticsearch is not just a search engine. It's not just everybody's favorite search engine, the most popular, the most powerful one, the one that everybody uses behind the scenes. It has tons of capabilities, including aggregations that are very advanced, metric bucket pipeline aggregations, some that you probably never heard about because you've never used them. Then we have ingest pipelines to process data and extract data from strings and resolve IP addresses and do geolookups. And then when you want to process data in a custom way, we have a scripting language. We can transform data in near real time. We have a gigantic machine learning engine that can do anomaly detection, data frame analytics, and then we have more capabilities in models, because we can host third-party models and use them for inferencing. We have an alert system. By the way, every time we build an app on top of Elasticsearch, one of the things that will give you peace of mind is that you can secure it with role-based access controls. So if the application is trying to access the data in Elasticsearch and it doesn't have the right privileges, they won't get the data. Okay, and you can lock down to the index level, to the field level, and to the document level. Okay, and then we have, for time series, we have ILM, and this is just an example. I want to focus on today on some of the aggregations that you may or may not have heard about. In fact, I didn't know about them until I started teaching some of them, and then I started digging in the. I think there's like somewhere deep in an elastic dungeon or a tower. There's people that just get paid to think deep thoughts, and they come up with really interesting things. So, for example, we have an aggregation that finds the uncommonly common terms. So these can be used to figure out what makes, for example, somebody tick based on their writings that distinguishes them from other people. Or if you're looking at analyzing crime and figuring out what the solution is, you can say, well, what is the crime profile for this block in this city? So we can use that aggregation to do things like that. And then there's another fairly new aggregation, the string stats aggregation, that for some reason they just throw in a magic formula for Shannon entropy, and that measures a level of randomness or energy in your data. So what you can do that you can use that to create a baseline, and you say, well, for this field, the normal entropy is 3.7, and then you can set up a watch or an alert so that if the entropy changes, then you might be actually subject of a hacking attack, because something actually changed. And then we can do inferencing by loading pre-trained models, and this is just an example of the unique advanced things that we have at Elasticsearch that go way beyond textual search or even semantic search. So how do we get actionable insights from GenAI, actually from the data processing and then through GenAI? Well, I'm going to show you an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of our sample data sets, the logs data set. I'm going to apply the string stats, and I'm going to apply it to the message field. And then now, normally without actionable intelligence insights, what would I do by looking at a value of like, 5.3? I'm not an expert in entropy. I barely have an idea what it means. Okay. So GenAI to the rescue. I could use my favorite GenAI. I'm going to use Claude Sonnet in this particular case, and then ask questions about what does this really mean? And then what do I do about it? And then I could come back and say, well, I did what you told me and I got this. And then it would tell me more. And then we would, continue with a conversation that is grounded in the context provided by Elasticsearch after crunching massive amounts of data or a little bit of data, depending on the use case. So let me come out here and show you how I did do that. So I am going to go to my console, and I am going to measure the entropy in the message field in the logs. So I do that, and this is the output. It says I have 14,000 log events, and this minimum, maximum length, average, and it tells me that the entropy is about 5.31. So now I want to know what it means. So then I go back to my AI and I say, hey AI, this is where I am. I ran the string stats aggregation on the message field of the sample logs data set provided by Elasticsearch, and I got the following. So I just copied and pasted. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that. You want to build an app that does that for you. But this is, the app will just be acting on your behalf and doing exactly what I just did. So I ran it in, I pre-ran it because I'm not sure if I ran out of like free interactions with Claude. So I didn't want to do it in real time and then run out of opportunity. So I ran it, and here's the answer. So I said, okay, I ran this. Can you tell me anything about whether this means that I'm being hacked? I mean, I'm taking the very simplistic approach that I don't know what this means. I don't know how to interpret that. Somebody put it in this aggregation. I think it's kind of cool. I looked up the documentation, and they said, well, this has been used to detect DNS exfiltration attacks. And now I know. Now I want to know, well, yes, so how? Exactly what does that mean? So then it's going to give me an answer, which is very thoughtful. And it's going to explain to me what it means. And it tells me, typical log messages tend to have low entropy. This one is kind of high. But the data we have in our sample logs is consistently about 5.3. So that's not all bad. But an unusually high entropy or an unusually low entropy could mean, like somebody's trying to inject a base 64 bit of text or an SQL injection attack. So you would be, the first thing you would need to do, and that's what it's telling me, context matters. You probably want a baseline. And then, ask me, if I had told Claude, hey, my baseline is, 4.3, then it would probably have, alerted me that, yeah, that's a fairly big jump in randomness. And then it gives me more advice and explains that, this seems to be statistically valid. So here's the next steps. So then I asked it, okay, well, help me out, Claude. Can you tell me how I could break? Because one of the suggestions was, we'll break down the entropy measurement into buckets and measure maybe by day, not whole data, right? And see if there's like a daily changes in entropy. Well, we can do that, but I really wanted to push this to the limit, and I said, hey, Claude, can you just give me a DSL query to do that? So I'm really lazy right now. And then it did that. Told me, yeah, well, you could do this, and you could add a filter. It's really nice. Claude is really nice about generating code. It explains all the code, and so it is. It tells me what things I could do. Some more examples of the query, and so on. So what I did, I did it in a different window because I kind of continued it. So the continuation was something like this. Running the query you suggested, so I'm already shifting the blame. I set it to a 1 hour interval, and then I get the following results. And so now I get buckets, one per day, one per hour, and they all have empty buckets are thrown out. And then I have measures of entropy for these hourly blocks of logs. So then I'm going to ask, hey, this is what I got based on what you told me. Is there anything I should be worried about? And then it does an analysis that I haven't seen ChatGPT do that well. So I kind of think, each GenAI has its own pros and cons. So I kind of like Claude based on what it did here. And it said, it did actually look at the values, and it gave me a range. And it says, I think things, there's no unusual activity. I don't see any sudden spikes or drops. The sample sizes are low, so the calculations might be less reliable. So maybe I need to increase from a 1 hour period to maybe a 3 hour periods. But they seem to be consistent. And by the way, I gave it a different number before, but it says even at 4.57, which was my previous run on the wrong field, it says that it's not dramatically so. So this is what you could do next, and so on and so on. So that's how you can take number crunching, not just number crunching, but machine learning crunching, classification, anomaly detection, things that Elasticsearch can do very well that you would never ask GenAI to do because it couldn't. You run out of tokens like in the first little batch, but we can always ask Elasticsearch to do that, and then feed the results. Now, to do this properly, you need to understand that it's all in the prompt, right? You need to start with a good prompt. You need to say, this was not a great prompt, I admit, because I did not explain this that well. But I think the idea of entropy and Shannon entropy, and the fact that probably Claude already knows something about the stats aggregation, the string stats aggregation in Elasticsearch, I did not need to educate it on something that maybe there are things that are ambiguous, maybe there's other things that are called the same thing. So I would want to refine and engineer a prompt that guides the GenAI as closely to the context I want before sending it off to analyze. We'll do that in a little bit when we build our app. Okay. So what I just did is actually what you do with any GenAI. You just feed it prompts, and the GenAI comes back. And if it's in conversation mode, the prompts are saved, accumulated, and then the whole history is submitted over and over in every interaction, and so on. All right, so this is what we did. You ask good questions, you get good answers. So it's all in the prompt. It's all. I'm a convinced believer that GenAI in the right hands is one of the most amazing tools that the world has ever seen, obviously. But in the wrong hands, or somebody who doesn't care, just saying, "Hey, build me a website to do that," it can do it. It will never refuse to do something for you. But there's no substitute from knowing what you're doing and providing the GenAI your own guidance and your own experience, and then guiding it along with examples, zero shot, one shot, chain of thought, and so on. And then you get really good results. And then as I put it in, I copied a phrase. I think it's attributed to Newton, and I put it in our course where we teach all this stuff. And that is that this makes us stand on the shoulders of giants, but it's still me at the top, right? So I wouldn't see anything far, even on top of giants, if I don't know what I'm looking for. All right, so let's go forward. Okay, now how do I turn this into an app? Well, it's very easy, because you have the ability to access Elasticsearch from one of the language clients, and of course the most favorite one would be the Python language client. It's the one that we all love. But there's more language clients. And what I would do is I would say, well, what is it that I'm looking for? Well, I would prototype the DSL query. I would use DevTools, and then I would turn it into a search template to have a little bit of separation of concerns between the logic of the DSL query, which I might want to update and refine and improve, and so on and so on, and the Python application that has a different, completely different development cycle. Okay, now I could write the Python client and just use print statements to display the output, but I can do a lot better than that, because there's something called Streamlit that has been developed for turning data-driven apps, like Python is basically, you go from the top down in your program, retrieving data and then doing something with it, like analyzing, rendering, plotting it, and so on. But you can do that as a web app if you use Streamlit. So Streamlit converts your data-driven Python program like that into a web application. And you can even deploy it if you want to do that. So let's see what that looks like. I want to see what that looks like. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to start by building a little data-driven application that simply accesses Elasticsearch, does some number crunching, and then puts the results on the screen. So I'm not going to use the print statement. I'm going to use the Streamlit statement. Now the aggregation I'm going to use is not the one I just used, which is the string stats. I am going to go for a brand new one, the one I was telling you about, which finds spikes and dips in and also steady states in your time series data, statistically, and it doesn't require machine learning jobs. It's in technical preview. I hope they keep it. I think it's really, really cool. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. So it's technical preview, which means it may be removed, modified, destroyed at any time. Hope not. But this is what it does. It detects spikes, dips, and changes. I think it also detects some trends. So this is the type of things it finds: a dip, a distribution change. If it's non-stationary, there's no change point, but the values are not from a stationary distribution. Stationary, step change, trend change. This seems to be like a very, very nice thing to have. So let's go ahead and use it. So the first thing we would do is try it out. So we would say, okay, well, let's throw it at our logs. Okay, and this is how, I mean, I don't have time to get into all the minor details of, all the syntax and all that. There's tons of tutorials, a lot from the community. We have classes. So I'm assuming that, this is more or less familiar to you. So all I'm doing is a search with an aggregation, but this time I am using the change point aggregation that is going to attempt to detect those interesting points in your data. It says, the documentation says it works better on a time series, and that is what I'm using, which is the logs. And it gives me the buckets for the aggregation, and then it'll tell me if it found anything. And apparently it found a dip in bucket 41. And then it gives me a p-value that tells me, yeah, and this is a statistical anomaly because it's based on, statistical hypothesis testing and all that. All right, so now I could, again, feed this into Claude and do it manually, but what I want to do is I want to turn this into an assistant, right? I want to turn everything I do, I want to turn it into an app. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, using the Python client, which I encapsulated in here, and then I'm going to use a little bit more as I improve this app. But right now, all I'm doing is I want to access Elasticsearch using the Python client. And then I have this little function that is basically the same query that you saw a minute ago. Okay. Now notice that embedding the code of your DSL in Python, you might say, yeah, that's doable. I do it all the time. But before you know it, this is going to be pages and pages of very hard to debug DSL code that you end up pasting, copying and pasting between the console and here. Okay, so this is our first solution. We're going to use that. So let me go ahead and see if it works. So that's my first attempt at my app. And all it's doing is, if you look at the code, I'm going to do the data load, and then I'm just going to display them. So instead of using a print statement on a console, I am just going to put them on a web page, thanks to Streamlit. So it says, okay, well, this is what we just retrieved from Elasticsearch. So this is very familiar to us. This is what we saw on the right-hand side of the DevTools console. So, it's all good. But it is really nice to have a pretty printer. This one is better than the DevTools console, I think. Now, the only problem I have is that I had to embed this. I'm not going to say it's ultra complicated, but as I refine things and when I add more, these things can get unwieldy. Also, if you wanted to modify your DSL, you have to ask the team that develops a Python app to pretty please make a change for you. That doesn't make any sense. What we should do is instead templatize. So we would take the query and we would turn it into a search template, which is very easy to do. It's the same query. In fact, you can parameterize and put, mustache variables to insert the parameters. But for the sake of time, I didn't do that. If you want to see how to do that, we do that a lot in the classes, or look it up. So I turned the query, it's the same query, but now I turn it into a search template. I'm going to call it the change point search template. Okay. Now, obviously, it doesn't run anymore because it's no longer a query. You have to invoke the template. So you can do it from DevTools. But my interest is in doing that. I mean, this is like, okay, why did you do that if you were just going to use DevTools? Well, no, my idea is that this is what I tell clients to do when they want their data, so that instead of like embedding it in their code, they just call the template and get the same thing. So if we were to run the code using the second version, the one that has the template invocation, you would see no difference because they do the same thing. Okay, that's all your buckets and stuff. So it's all good, but now we have achieved something that actually is at a very mature level of, I would argue, of software engineering, and that is that you have separation of concerns for real. I mean, just compare this, and it's not bad yet. It will be at some point. I can tell you from experience from my customers that they do this, and then I tell them, why did you do that? Because they could have this, and then they can have two teams working separately on the DSL, and then they wouldn't have to ever change this program unless it has its own issues. All right, so now what we're gonna do, if you look at the output has the data, and what I want from the data is I want to extract my data, but since I'm building an app, before we make it intelligent, why don't we just plot it? Let's make an app that displays it and then analyzes it, like a true assistant. So I'm going to go for the plotting in Python, since I get all that from Python very easily. So, but what I need to do is format the data in such a way that I can send it to something like matplotlib. So basically, I need dates and values. I'm going to extract that, and that is the next version of the solution. I'm just going to say, okay, well, let's get dates. Okay, so we do that with a for loop, and then make a little bit of conversions to make it friendlier to the matplot library. And then I get the averages. So I have like two arrays, one with dates, one with averages. And then I'm very much a little step type person. So I'm not going to plot right now because I want to see if I'm getting the right data. So I do this a lot. If you've seen my demos, you know that maybe it's a little bit on the exasperating side. So I'm going to go ahead and run it and see if it's extracting the right data. So I see these are the buckets, these are the dates, and these are the averages. So I'm kind of liking that. So I'm going to see if I can pass this to the plotter. Okay, let's try doing that. So my next version, so that's why I have 7 little steps. In my next version, what I'm going to do is I am going to figure out how to plot. And here, I don't memorize any of these things. And now I don't have to look them up on Stack Overflow, because now I can ask, Claude or ChatGPT, hey, help me out. Help me out, friend. I want to plot this data. So how do I do that? And it won't be perfect most of the time. Most of the time, it's very, very useful. Some of the time, it's exactly what you want. But in the end, like I said, if you know what you're looking for and you know what you're doing, then this actually works really well. So this is heavily based on ChatGPT suggestions with modifications and some research that I had to do. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to create the plot by passing the dates and averages. We're going to put markers. And then I want to do one more thing. I want to detect the dip. I want to extract the actual change points, if there are any. And then I want to annotate them. So a lot of these things I ask, hey, okay, so I got this far, ChatGPT. Now, if I wanted to annotate something on the screen, how would I do it? And then it says, yeah, it's no problem. If you're too lazy to look it up, here it is. So my next version is going to actually render a picture with the data and extract the change points and then annotate them. So I would say, just that. And because we're not going to provide you in Kibana a change point visualization anytime soon. So why not do our own? And the answer is yeah, exactly. Why not? So I am going to run my next iteration. And this one should be a plot. And it's actually a pretty nice looking plot that has a dip identified. So notice that it did find a dip, because we saw that in the output of the aggregation. Now, I'm not asking Python to do this. It could. I'm not asking ChatGPT yet to do this. I'm just saying I can do that in Elasticsearch way before I get to Python processing, way before I get to exhausting my token quota with a GenAI, because Elasticsearch does it well, and Elasticsearch has no problem handling terabytes of data. So it is great at that. So why not use it? All right, so here's my next version. So what I want to do now is reorganize my UI so that I have room for my chart, and then I'm going to put a section on the right to have my actionable advice. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. My next version is going to just make room. So I'm going to go into, I am going to go into a 2-column format. So this is all Streamlit. I'm going to say, hey, just in column 1, plot the picture, and in column 2, just put this header. We will fill it in the next iteration, but right now I just want to see how it looks. So let's go ahead and do that. I also like all my breadcrumbs to be, versions of my code. And you can close the old ones if you want. So nothing changed here except this is my my picture. I don't know what happened to the annotation here. I kind of lost it. I have to debug the Python code a little bit. And I have room for the sage advice that I'm going to get from my favorite GenAI, which I will do in the next iteration, which is the 6th version. Okay. So now what I want to do is in column 2, or under the scope of column 2, I want to write a good prompt. So the prompt can be made up of directions, questions, background information. That would be the context. So what I'm saying is to the GenAI, you are a helpful Elasticsearch expert. So that already puts it in the mode that this is already in the context of Elasticsearch. And then I'm explaining, because this is a brand new aggregation. ChatGPT is probably not trained on it. So I'm just going to tell it what it is. And I took this from the documentation. It's a sibling pipeline aggregation. So this is verbatim from the page that I showed you before. I don't think I need to tell ChatGPT more than that. It would get it. It would say, I get it. And then I would create a place to inject the actual output from the load data that I would have done before from Elasticsearch. So this is what I'm planning on sending to the GenAI, my buckets with the data in them. I try to describe as much of what it's about to see in the context, and then I say, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So my question is, please interpret and analyze the aggregation results and give me some recommended next steps. I know it's pretty good. Now this is ChatGPT. I haven't used Claude from an API yet, so I'm gonna switch to GPT-3 and 4. But I do know that it's pretty good at writing DSL, so it does a decent job. So can you also give me a DSL that can help me continue my exploration? And then for that DSL, since I just want to copy it and run it, then that would be the ideal. The index for your GET request should be the sample data logs. Okay, and then I'm going to just put it in. So what I'm going to do is, by the way, so now I'm using LangChain, and I'm using the LangChain expression language to create a piped command sequence for my chain. So LangChain is really good at this. The expression language makes me not have to write a lot of code. And I'm really happy with it. Okay, so I'm just going to create the chain, the LangChain chain, and then invoke it, capture the answer, say yay, and this is kind of like a little bit geeky. But it has them, so I figured, why not put them, okay? And then I will put it, I will display it. I will say this is the answer, okay? Notice that the chat message has a markdown function. So ChatGPT will return markdown code, markdown text rather, and then it'll be rendered properly using the markdown method of the chat message function or printer in Streamlit. So this is my next version. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so let's go here. So now this one should have some intelligence. Actually, this one should have the intelligence I'm looking for. Okay. So there's the spinner that it's analyzing. There's my question, and then the balloons. So the reason it went so quick is because I'm using ChatGPT 3.5, and that is actually really usable, very fast, but not the greatest, right? But for some use cases, it's exactly what you want. So this told me, there is a dip in there, and it is significant because the p-value is very low. So that makes it statistically valid to say that that is an anomaly here. And then if you wanted to, if you want to know what to do next, well, why don't you zero in on your logs and see what else happened around that time that causes the anomaly. And here's a suggested query. So if you were to copy it, which we can, and then run it, it actually didn't run. The Claude one did run, but this one did not. Okay, well, different GenAIs are better. It's very easy to fix. My experience with ChatGPT DSL is I always have to fix it. But I was impressed that with Claude, I did not. Okay. All right. Now, I would like to make it a little bit friendlier for my users, because now I have an assistant, right? This is the Elastic Change Points Advisor. And I want to, make a lot of money with it. But for someone who's not a statistician, this may be like a little bit of cryptic. The p-value, what on earth is that? So I could actually ask for a little bit more help. And this is my last iteration for the moment. I'm going to say, you know what? Could you please very briefly explain what's going on statistically? Okay. So now I'm going to go for ChatGPT 3 just to prove a point. So I'm going to run that one. And I'm going to say, hey, can you explain to me what's going on? If you can. So it's going to do, now this is ChatGPT 3, so it's going to come back much quicker than maybe before. And then it says, here's what I saw, and recommendations. Here's the DSL. I don't think this DSL is the right one, by the way, but it's a start. Okay, and ChatGPT, especially 3, is not really that good at that. And another version, when I put Claude in here, I think it'll be much better. But I'm not happy because I asked it to tell me, explain to me statistically why this is a valid anomaly, and it didn't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from GPT-3 to GPT-4 and see if I get a better outcome. So I can just rerun it. Now it's going to take a lot longer because GPT-4 is more advanced and it does more work, more intelligent, whatever, or slower, whatever you want to call it. So this one will take a little bit longer, but now this one actually paid attention to my question. It says, well, the concept of a change point is and blah, blah, blah. And I think it did better a previous run because it told me that it was actually testing a null hypothesis, and that the p-value kind of like threw it out, and that proved that the change point was significant. So that's kind of what I wanted to see here. But in this run, it didn't do it. Maybe I should be more specific about explain to me, what is the, not just the idea on a change point, but what is the p-value and blah, blah, blah. All right, so now I have my change point advisor. So what I would want to do next is add more controls. So I can put like a menu on the left, and then put probably like some widgets for dates. Maybe the interval could be like a period, like a slider. I didn't do it for this meetup, but I'm going to talk to you in a moment about the class where you learn everything that I'm talking about big time. And I'll show you what these applications look like in just a moment. But I have my data from Elasticsearch, like I promised, data-driven app that processes data in Elasticsearch and uses the GenAI to do analysis and generate intelligent, actionable insights. All right, and you will get different mileage depending on which GenAIs you use. All right, so let me get back to where we were. So we kind of did that. Now what we built is a RAG application because it retrieved data from Elasticsearch and augmented it. This is a typical pipeline. But what we did different than just just do the search in Elasticsearch, find very high relevant data, and put it in the context for the GenAI, and then ask your question, and then the GenAI will be guided by this context. That's kind of what I did in the last meetup. But now what we're doing is saying, yeah, but we can also do a lot of number crunching. I can do classification, anomaly detection. I can do string stats. I can do significant terms on massive amounts of data that the GenAI will not do for me. Some of these aggregations, it might not even understand what I'm looking for. But Elasticsearch has those built in. So from just extracting data in the form of text, which is high relevance text from your private data, to what we're doing today is, why don't you take advantage of the number crunching, data crunching, transformations, enrichment, and all the processing that Elasticsearch gives you on big data, okay? And then you can pair them up. So Elasticsearch plus GenAI is the best RAG application solution that you can come up. And at least I'm willing to defend it. So this is what we did. We started with the data-driven application. We just dumped dumped all the contents on the web page, and we use LangChain to connect to GenAI. We use the LangChain expression language to create a LangChain using pipe commands. And then we just created a chain that includes a prompt that has the instructions. It includes the context. You invoke the chain, and then you take the advice from the GenAI. Now you can actually process the output of the GenAI. You could even run it by a different GenAI. Okay. One of the things I like to do is do the battle of the artificial wits and say, hey, what do you think about this advice I got? I'm not going to tell it it's from another, from a cousin AI. And it's funny because they kind of argue, well, this is good, but not exactly right. So you could even do that. You can do anything you want, basically. All right, and I showed you an example of exactly that. I took the change points aggregation. I used ChatGPT 3 to generate the intelligent advice. I wasn't happy with what it did. As far as reading my question and answering, at least giving me some of the information I requested. So I switched over to 4. The DSL has always been problematic for me with ChatGPT. So one upgrade that I intend to do is let's go to Claude. If we're asking it to generate things like DSL or Python or whatever, I cannot, I'm not totally giving up, but I do think Claude has been shown to be better. Now, I don't think Claude is perfect. I do like ChatGPT 3 speed. I like ChatGPT 4 for a lot. That's my main go-to one. 4.0 is the one I use. But more and more, I do like, it's a bunch of toys, and most of them are free or inexpensive. So why not use them? So what do we do? What do I suggest you do next? Well, build your own apps. I'm going to share the slides in a GitHub repo with this code. All you have to do is type in your OpenAI credentials. I'm using Azure, so you would have to have that if you want to match the way that I'm accessing the LLM. You would need your own cloud instance of Elasticsearch or a local one, and then you're good to go. The code, all of those iterations of the app that I showed you will be in the repo. You can also look at how Elastic itself augments its own tools. So the Elastic AI Assistant has been augmenting the observability and security apps with GenAI. And we're very happy to show you the prompts we use. So, learn from it, use it, look at the prompts and see how the Elasticsearch professionals do it. And, what style of prompt engineering are they using? Is it what you would use? Can you get inspiration from it? And then finally, if you want to build a whole bunch of these from the ground up, we have a course. That's a 4-day course. It's massive. And it teaches you how to do everything we did. And let me just give you a preview of some of the cool things that we have there. I just couldn't resist showing you some of it. All right, first of all, the course is 8 modules. So we're going to talk about, GenAI, the relevance engine, RAG. And then since that one is a search-oriented course, in fact, that is the search class that we have now. We're going to talk about DSL, how to write very deep, complex DSL aggregations, how to integrate with Elasticsearch, Python client, search template, retrievers, Streamlit, and then we're going to do a very deep dive into full text, similarity, relevance, analyzers, synonyms, vector search, and then within similarity and relevance, you're going to write your own relevance scoring function, similar to BM25, and so on and so on. You're going to use ELSER, and then you're going to use everything you learned to be able to retrieve the most highly possible relevant results out of Elasticsearch using keyword search, textual search, semantic search using vector search, using ELSER to feed a GenAI and then build apps, because that's, in the end, that's what I think we should all do, build apps. And then you can build apps like this one. This is like the next generation of the one I showed you last time, which was a blog advisor where you could ask questions. Except that one was just a search engine. This one is conversational. So, for example, what is the enrich processor? So now it's going to go and retrieve blogs and summarize them. It's using a local summarizer. Normally I wouldn't show the context, but I wanted to just validate that it is pulling data from Elasticsearch. It is taking the top 5 blogs, summarizing them, and then telling the GenAI. And this is my first question. What is the enriched processor? It is going to tell me what it is. And then I can ask something like, can I use it with a relational database? So now I'm in conversation mode. Everything is being captured and submitted. And it tells me the truth. It says, well, you cannot really use it directly because you cannot go from Elasticsearch to a database, but you could preload, or you could use Logstash, blah, blah, blah. And then without even mentioning what we're talking about, I would say any good blogs. And then it would reach into its context and everything it knows and its intelligence. And then it should recommend me some good readings, which actually came from Elasticsearch. So this is the next gen the next gen blog advisor. Now, what I did to follow the idea, well, it's not just pulling data and then letting the GenAI do everything. What about if we take what these people write about and we generate a technical profile? So in this case, we still pull blogs, we summarize them, but now we use the significant terms aggregation to explain, well, what makes this author different from this author? Well, one of them had like a favorite topics, and I put them in a really cool word cloud. And then I'm asking it to use its intelligence. So this is ChatGPT 4, I think. And it's going to tell me why I want to talk to Monica about beats, or and so on and so on. And then you can continue and say, well, let's move away from just text. Well, you can teach it a chain of thought. You can use a chain of thought prompt to create a sizing app. So you can say, well, I have a daily volume of 30 gigabytes. I need to keep them for 30 days. And I want to know how many nodes I want in the hot tier. Now, the GenAI will not do what you don't help it do, right? If you just ask this question to ChatGPT, it will give you very wild answers. However, I actually went to the page in the documentation where they teach you how to do the sizing. And then I created a chain of thought prompt and taught the GenAI, well, this is how I want you to do it. So it's following me verbatim. Well, okay, first we do this, and we calculate that. And then we calculate this, and then we calculate that, and then we get 5 nodes. And then, and then I told them, hey, give me some best practices. And then this is like from its generic knowledge. So if you want to know how to build all of that, then you do have to take the class. All right, so that's it. I think it's kind of right on time. I don't know if I left a lot of time for questions and answers, but I'm not going anywhere, so ask away.
That was perfect. Enrique, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin.
I have to applaud you for actually telling a story and showing us, even within an hour, how to start crawling and then incrementally increase. And now you have your final product. Very, very exciting. And just to kind of promote what you were saying, that training course, what is the website? Is it elastic.co/training?
Yes, in fact, you can get to it from here.
Awesome.
And I can put the chat. I can put the link in the chat.
Cool. I just copied the training site.
Yes.
Also, can we get to your repository in any easy way?
I have to clean it up a tiny bit, and then I'm going to make it public. And then as an update to the YouTube video, if you want to put the cleaned up slides and the GitHub link, we'll have that available probably by Monday or so.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going to definitely take this course, and I would invite everybody to. I'm somewhat still a little fresh with Elastic, so I've been reading a lot of onboarding materials in my free time. But to actually take a course with a person live is always so much better. Enrique and I were speaking before the video about how I also was a curriculum developer a long time ago, and it's just way better to kind of learn with somebody so you can ask questions.
Yes, and this course is offered through the subscription, which will be on demand, self-paced, and you can pause and continue anywhere you want. But if you want an instructor-led course, you just contact training, and we will be happy to work with your company and bring it to you virtually or in person even.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's the best way, I think. Just a couple questions we have from here, from our YouTube channel. Will this be recorded? Yes. So as fast as YouTube can process this, we will have it syndicated on our Elastic community channel. So I'm definitely going to be rewatching this. And then, yeah, stay tuned for an update to the description so I can actually include Enrique's repository and how to contact Enrique if you have any questions or want to send him some accolades. And then Shrew and Shrey, this is not a dumb question at all. Can Elasticsearch be used for RAG applications by setting up an Elastic Index server locally? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. You just changed that. You just changed the the part of the Elasticsearch Python client to point to your local on-prem deployment, and it's identical, totally identical. A cloud deployment and an on-prem deployment have the same exact APIs, the same output, the same formats. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to wait until after your talk so we can both kind of go over this. I feel like I have the right answer, but I want to consult wiser heads. So for GenAI, you need vector DB holding encoded data, whereas ES stores them in compressed plain text. Therefore, you need two storages for the same data. Is ES doing that? And if not, why? If I remember correctly, we're storing vector DB as encoded data, right?
Yes, you can do that. You can also, so you have many different ways, and this is explored in the course in a lot of depth. But the problem is the following, and let me get back to the architecture picture. So this is what we're talking about. All right, so you know, the bottom line is you want to know the answer to a question. You know, how we get it is, you know, what we want to discuss. You can ask the GenAI directly the question, and more than likely, not more than likely, but in many cases, it'll hallucinate and give you totally off the wall answers. So what we do is we want to use your data to set the context. So in this case, I'm using blogs that we have been writing at Elasticsearch as the context. Now I cannot just find like the top 5 blogs because they're pretty big and send them off to the GenAI and say, you know, based on this context, and don't stray away from it, because you can ask the GenAI, don't stray away from the context, please. However, I cannot send it the whole entire blogs because I will run out of tokens. So what we do is we do query Elasticsearch, okay? But then you have some options. You can actually query a database which has fragments, and then pull the fragments and send that to the GenAI, okay? Or what I did in my case, which I kind of like think is better, I don't know, 2 different approaches. So what I'm doing is I am pulling the top blogs, you know, in their full content, and then I'm using a summarizer to summarize into like 15 sentences. Then I inject that as a context. So what you saw in the in these let's see, actually in these examples, let me get, how do I get out of here easily? Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. So if you see this one, yeah. So the context, it might look big, but actually it's not. It's like a 30-sentence summary of each of the top 5 blogs. So this is going to be guiding the GenAI to, you know, to the context, you know, the universe of discourse that I want it to stay within, so that it will not hallucinate and give me something that is basically useless to me. All right, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm extracting data from Elasticsearch. This one I am doing with semantic search, not with vector search, but I could do vector search. The idea is to extract only a small subset of the most highest, you know, the most highly relevant data, because you only have so much space in the context before you start running out of money and tokens, right? But you have to provide it enough so that it, you know, so that it's actually useful. And that's tricky. So you can use a vector database, or you can use ELSER with semantic search, and then find exactly the blogs. So basically, you begin by asking the question to Elasticsearch, and it's, you know, it gives you the data it has, which is blogs that talk about how to secure Elasticsearch, and then we give that information, and then we let GenAI, you know, play within that context, and then use its own expertise, and then you get actionable intelligence. But I could have used vector search. In this version of the blog advisor, I am just using a local Python summarizer.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for this. We have one last question. This is great. Some love. Shreya says, thank you so much for the session. Is there any subsidized course fee for university students?
That I don't know, but we will find out more about it if you want to contact training. Actually, no. I don't know that there is such a thing, but in the description, we'll have a way to, you know, contact someone in training? And that's a very good question. We should. I think there are ways to get like a voucher, but I have to confess I don't know the mechanics for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Now you can look me up on LinkedIn, to do it a little bit offline, and I will find out for you. I will try to push people into it. If we're not doing that right now, can we? Can we do that?
Also, Shreyas, if you're still online, you can contact me, Justin Castillo, as a developer advocate. And if you have enough interest, there might be a possibility for a meetup where we can actually kind of have something similar to this on site or a little bit more focused. So there's always possibilities for education.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Enrique. I really appreciated you taking the time to kind of show us what you've been working on. This is very dense, very exciting, very interesting, and I'm going to take a lot of time offline to go through it. It's very exciting, and thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
All right, everybody, thank you. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next meetup.